Hi, welcome. I'm Josephine Moon. I am really happy to be here tonight. Thank you, Better Reading, for having me along. I've been told that some comments, questions will start popping up in my comment section any moment. So until I start seeing some people come through, I'll just talk a little bit about where I am. I'm sitting in my writing room, although my writing room doesn't usually look quite this festive, I must say. So this has definitely been done up for the jam colours to match the cover of the Jam Queens. So a bit of bunting never goes astray, I think. I think bunting's always a good idea. So this is my writing room, and I am coming to you from the Noosa hinterland in southeast Queensland. It's been a bit cool up here the past few days, which I know for many of you in Australia right now, you won't think that's very cool at all because you've got snow and freezing cold winds and things like that. But it's a bit chilly up here for Queensland. Hi, Joy Bell. Thank you for coming along. It's lovely to see you. And you started reading the book today. That's great. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying it already. That's awesome. Thank you. I will tell you a little bit about the book while we're waiting for some more people to come along. So this is The Jam Queens. The Jam Queens is my 7th foodie fiction novel, and it's about 4 generations of women, 5 women all from the one family who are competitive jam makers. So my foodie theme obviously is jam for this book, and when I started researching jam, I got really taken with the idea of the competitive nature of jam making, and I thought it would be really interesting to have a whole family of jam makers who were competitive. So the book follows them. They head off to celebrate Valeria's 70th birthday, and they do that by joining the GAN, the wonderful train that runs from Darwin down to Adelaide, right through the centre of Australia. And you know, I did the journey with my sister. We might talk about that a bit later as well. But there's no Wi-Fi for most of it, no mobile phone reception, no internet. So it's a really amazing experience because you drop so deeply into the present moment. And so if you've got some unresolved tensions, perhaps some sort of long-held resentments in your family, you know, what could possibly go wrong if you're sitting on a train with no escape? You know, obviously some of those things are going to come to the surface, which they do in this book. And we follow them through Australia, and then they land, or they arrive in Adelaide just in time to get some jam into the Royal Adelaide show as well. And there's a lot of other things going on in the book. There's always a lot of things going on in my books. And, you know, we address a lot of things. We talk about IVF, and we talk about, oh gosh, fractured relationships and renewal, and stresses, and sort of the way families kind of fracture and fall apart and the way they come back together. So there's a lot going on in there, but we'll probably get on to that as we look at some questions. Hi, Tracy. I saw you yesterday. We had a chat yesterday. And hi, Karen. Hi, Jane. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Michelle. It's great to have you guys all here. Joy Bell would like to know, she says, I've loved all your books. Thank you very much. And she would like to know where I get my ideas, which is a great question. All of my books start in multiple places at once, as it did for the Jam Queens. So the Jam Queens sort of, often my books marinate over quite a few years in bits and pieces. And so for this one, many years ago, many moons ago, I started an idea of the character of Aggie, but she was set, I had her over in New York, so it was an Australian in New York. And it wasn't quite working for me over there, and I put it aside. And then a little while after that, I did research down to the Barossa Valley, because I always build my books from the outside in. So I have to know all about my settings, and I have to know my food things really, really well. And it's like I have to set a stage. And once I've set the stage, then I can bring characters in there. So the setting definitely came first. And then about 2 years ago, then the idea of the GAN came. And so I ended up going on the GAN. As I said, I took my sister. We had an absolute ball. And at that point, I didn't have a list of characters that I knew would be in the book. I didn't know exactly what the story was going to be about. So I was still gathering information and just really sinking into that experience of writing the GAN, which, you know, again, is wonderful. But the beautiful thing about that trip was that we actually came up with a couple of characters on that trip because my sister and I were the youngest people there by far. There was really only one other couple there who were about our age. And most of the people were certainly in their 60s, but very often in their 70s and 80s as well. And so every time you sit down for dinner on the GAN, they mix you with different people. And so you get to chat to a lot of people. And we were just so inspired. There was a lot of female friendships for women in their 70s and 80s who'd been traveling together for a long time. And we found this really, really inspiring. And somehow we managed to project ourselves forward into sort of our 80s. And we sort of started talking in character. We named ourselves. I named myself Myrtle. My sister named herself Dolls. And we could see ourselves as these 80-year-old women who were still traveling the world together. And I really hope that that is how it works out for us. But that sort of, I don't know, it was like role playing, I guess, but it was something that set up those characters of Myrtle and Dolls in the book, who are lifelong friends and have been friends for 60 odd years and are still traveling together. So yeah, so it's like stories come from all over the place. And then there is a theme of IVF in the book that came directly from a radio interview I was listening to. And it was talking about sort of the unique challenges that happen at the end of an IVF journey. So what happens when you finished your journey, but you have remaining embryos that haven't been used, and how do you make decisions about what to do with those embryos? And I was really taken by that. And I thought that would be a really kind of rewarding thing to work out on the page with my character of Aggie. And especially so if you've broken up with the partner that you made those embryos with, which Aggie has in her case. So there was a lot to pull apart there. Hi, Amber. Hi, Lisa. Patricia wants to know, do you choose your titles? It's a good question. That changes for each book. For this one, I named it right at the start. So normally what I do is I give my books a working title, and so I can just sort of call it that as I'm working with it. But often the final title doesn't really come through right till the very, very end, when we're talking about the cover and the sort of the marketing aspect of it, which is not something I put much thought into at all, actually, until right at the very, very end. So, but this one I actually called the Jam Queen right at the beginning, singular. And then I was not sure, as I was writing the first draft, who exactly was the Jam Queen. And then I sort of changed to something else, and I called it the Jam Queen Fixes Everything, and I was sort of working with that. And then right at the very, very end, after the story all came together, my publisher said, do you think maybe we could go back to the Jam Queen but call it the Jam Queens? And which was perfect, because when you get to the end of the book, that was already written into the book, that phrase. And of course it makes total sense, because this book is very much an ensemble cast of all those women. Aggie is our main character, absolutely. But I really fell in love with her whole family, and we have three voices in this book telling this story, and they are a family of Jam Queens. So that was absolutely perfect. Yeah, but normally writers often don't have a lot to do with the title. The marketing people sort of often come up with those titles. Helen says, my mum gave us the Beekeeper's Secret, and now we, the local Karoi girls, eagerly await your new books. Oh, thank you. We want to get the Jam Queen signed on Saturday. Umundi has actually just been postponed for a couple of weeks. They had a bit of trouble getting their stock in, but be there in 2 weeks after that, and I would love to see you, so do please come on down. That would be great. Tracy wants to know, I was going to ask how you came up with Myrtle and Dolls, who you loved in the book. That's great. I'm glad I answered that. That's awesome. My sister is in the comments saying, hi, Myrtle. So I say, hi, Dolls. We actually call each other Myrtle and Dolls now. It's just the way it is. Tracy also wants to know, why did I choose not to give Holly a point of view? That's a really interesting question too. So the point of view is obviously the person telling the story, and the people in the book telling the story are Aggie, her mother Valeria, and Aggie's great aunt Myrtle. Holly, to begin with, 3 is a magic number. So most of my books will have been narrated by 3 characters, because 3 just is a more balanced, it just sort of works well, 3. It's a really good number. And in my very first draft, Holly actually wasn't in the book, she was over in the USA. And so between the first draft and the second draft, I wrote her back into the book. I realized she needed to be back here in Australia and on the train with everybody else. But by then, all the structure had already been set up. But in general, technical terms, you choose the people to tell the story, who need to tell the story. And in that case, it was Aggie, Valeria, and Myrtle. But good technical question. Rita would like to know, what foodie journey are you planning for us next? She says, I love your stories. Thank you so much, Rita. I love my foodie journeys too. It is such a fun job. I get to go and research all sorts of wonderful foods. And as I said to somebody on radio yesterday, that the year that I did chocolate, I put on an awful lot of weight because I researched that subject really, really well, because it was, chocolate. I haven't actually decided what my next book will be yet. I have had an Apple book that's been floating around for many, many years that just kind of hasn't found a way to land yet. I've attempted to start it several times over, but it just hasn't come to be. So often that happens. I start a lot of books and I start a lot of stories, and then I let them go. And sometimes they marinate for a few years and come back, and other times they just don't. It's a funny thing, the writing game. It's very much a partnership between me and this sort of creativity. And there's definitely alchemy in it, and definitely a bit of magic. So nothing at the moment has struck me with a really strong magical pull. So I'll be waiting for that one. Karen says, looking forward to reading The Jam Queens. She says, my mum's hoping to travel on the GAN soon, so we'll be getting her a copy for Mother's Day. That's great. I really hope she does get on the GAN, because it honestly is a wonderful, wonderful journey. It really, really, it really is. It's just a really inspiring. And, you go through the centre of Australia into places that you would never go. Like, I would never just get on a train or a plane or a bus and go, oh, I'm just going to go to Cuba Pedy, and, or I'm going to go to, I don't know, just anywhere in the desert. It's sort of not something I would do. And I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed watching the landscape change so much from that sort of red earth of the Northern Territory, and then how it changes then when you hit, when you pass into South Australia and the desert becomes really, really desert, that sort of grey and sandy brown colour, as opposed to around Uluru, which is technically semi-arid, and it's red and really alive. And yeah, it's just a really fascinating thing. And it's something really special about waking up on the train in the middle of the desert and, being able to see the stars above you and watch that, the horizon line of the sun breaking over the edge. It's just stunning, really magical. Alison would like to know, do you have a soft spot for any of your books, apart from the new one, of course? I do love all of my books, of course. I say books are like children, and of course you love them all equally. But I do have particular affection for The Beekeeper's Secret. I'm not really sure why. I think because the character of Maria was just such an incredibly strong character who turned up so clearly. She just sort of, like, every time I sat down at the computer, she was there. She was sitting beside me. And her voice was just so strong, and I really enjoyed writing that book. And it was a really kind of straightforward book to write because she just spoke so clearly all the time. Hi, Lynette. Looking forward to getting Jam Queens on audio tomorrow. Oh, I've just got my copy of the audio version too. I'm really looking forward to listening to it as well. As many of you would know, it's narrated by Kat Stewart, who I just love, and I was really, really hoping to have her narrate the book, and she did. So I'm really looking forward to reading that as well, and I bet she's done a great job. So yeah, I love audiobooks. Are you a big audiobook fan? I almost read almost exclusively on audio these days. It's just yeah, I don't know. It's just I love being read to, It's like being a child again, having someone tell you a story. It's wonderful. I don't have to work hard at all. I can just sit back and relax. Sarah says, did you always want to be a writer? If not, how did this happen? Well, that's a long and complicated story, actually. I think like most writers, I was an avid reader as a child. And I have very fond memories of rushing into the school library to get the new instalment of the Silver Brumby series. I was absolutely addicted to that. I loved everything by Enid Blyton, loved The Naughtiest Girl in the School, loved The Faraway Tree, loved all those stories. So most writers become writers because they're big readers and they love story. So I wrote my first story when I was 9 called Starlight the Brumby, heavily influenced by the Silver Brumby series, as I'm sure you can imagine. And I acted the whole thing out in the backyard and then wrote it all down. And then, I don't know, I got a bit distracted for a while, not really knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a vet. And when I went to uni, I actually started in environmental science. But statistics and I were clearly never going to get on, and so that was never going to happen. And then I had to really sort of sit and look at what I was good at, and I seemed to be quite good at writing. So I studied journalism, and then I did a teaching degree after that as well. So then I started as an English teacher. That was my first job out of uni. And then in my first year uni, I went to a course at the Queensland Writers Centre, and I describe it as just a full body moment where I just went, no, this is it. This is absolutely what I want to do forever. I want to write novels. I want to be a career author. So that was a great idea, but then it took me another 12 years of writing nonstop, pretty much. I wrote while I worked full-time. I wrote while I worked part-time, or casually, all over the place. And I wrote over a lot of different genres, and I was writing nonfiction, I was writing children's, and I was writing memoir, and I was just writing all sorts of stuff. And I don't think I really knew what sort of writer I wanted to be. And it was really only when the idea for the T-chest came to me that it all just sort of came together, and then it all made sense. And then it all just happened, and it all happened really quickly. So I think it just took me that long to find my groove. And when I found it, it just made sense, and I've just loved it. I've created this kind of sub-genre of foodie fiction, which I love, and the research is great, and it's really fun for me, and you're stuck in a book for years, so you really want to be excited about turning up to work. And it makes me excited when I get to go and research chocolate and create exciting food and learn new recipes, and that's all work, and it is work, but it's really, really good fun work. Jane says, being a writer is certainly a process, isn't it? Yes, it really is. It's a very long process, which is why you really, really have to be excited and enthusiastic about what you're working on, because, yeah, it takes a really long time. It really does. Audio is fabulous on long car trips. Certainly is. Absolutely is. I would like to know if Holly's experience, I don't think I can read that one out because that gives away a big chunk of surprise at the end of the book. So I can't really answer that one, sorry. Lynette says, the comments just moved. Lynn's talking about the trip on the Ghan, I think, saying the part of Australia everyone needs to visit. I agree. I love the desert, and I love Uluru. We went to Uluru actually about I think the year before we went on the Ghan, and just loved it so much. I cried the second I saw it. I think I cried every day that I saw it. It was just so, so beautiful. Loved it a lot. I have a few photos, actually. I like to do a bit of, this is the teacher in me, I like to be prepared, and I like to have visuals if I can. So I thought I would show you a few things. So one, this is me sitting on the Ghan with, I believe that's a Malibu and Coke in front of me. I'm very classy. Malibu and Coke is my favourite drink ever. I don't drink very often, but I do love a good Malibu and Coke. And there's a lot of sugar in it, which is probably why I like it a lot. All the drinks on the Ghan are included in your price for those who are interested. And so that there is the bar carriage, and it is quite well populated most of the time. This is the obligatory photo that everybody needs to take before they get on the Ghan. So this was my sister and myself on the first day when we rocked up. My poor sister was in a moon boot. Like, she had this terrible Achilles injury, and so this poor thing's getting around in this moon boot. She's really, really well. But this is the beautiful, iconic logo of the Ghan, and it's just a stunner. And a few people have sent me the photos. There's a photo going around at the moment of the GAN's had a makeover with this beautiful Indigenous artwork, and it's sort of green and blue. It's absolutely stunning. If you go and have a look on their Instagram feed or Facebook feed, you'll see it. It's absolutely beautiful. There is a point halfway through the journey where you stop in outside Alice Springs, and you get to go and have a dinner under the stars. Now, we went in June. It was June or July, and I was prepared. Like, I was prepared for cold, and this photo probably doesn't really. Well, you can't feel the cold, but trust me when I tell you, it was so cold. And I am a cold frog, as we've already established. I'm a sooky Queenslander. I was literally wearing everything I had that night, and this was the afternoon, but it was stunning. It really was a highlight of the trip, and just gorgeous. So if you've read the book, or when you read the book, you'll get to that point in the middle of the book, and you'll hopefully get to live it a bit, because it really was just magical. It really was a super highlight. Absolutely beautiful. Alison wants to know, can children travel on the GAN, and would I recommend it? That's a great question. Yes, children can go on the GAN, and I still follow the hashtag the GAN, because I just love watching all the photos. And I do see from time to time photos pop up of people who've taken their kids on the GAN. And would I recommend it? I think that would be really dependent on the child and the age, remembering that you've got no Wi-Fi at all. So if you're a little dependent on technology, that's possibly going to be challenging for some. Also, I'm not sure how you would, so you've got bunk rooms that are twin share bunks, and so you would need, depending on how many kids you had and how many adults you had, you would have to split them across carriages, so that could be a little tricky as well. But I think it would be great. I would certainly think about taking my son now. He's 8, nearly 9, and I think it would be a really amazing thing to do, absolutely. And because you stop so many places along the way, and you get off and you can trek, and you can do so many different things. You take a helicopter ride over Uluru if you want to. Like, there's so much to do, and I think it would be amazing. So I think, 8 or 9-year-old, yeah, I think that's probably doable. Lots of messages there about the beautiful carriages of the GAN. So yeah, lots of people have seen them online. Here are some of the authors that inspire me. Oh gosh, anyone and everyone, really. I think that originally the authors that were sort of really inspiring me to start writing were writers like Marion Keyes and Monica McInerney and Jojo Moyes, all of that sort of, the queens, really, the queens of these sorts of genres. I just love a really good story, it doesn't really matter who's telling it. If it's a good story, then I want to hear it. So I do read a lot of different things, and I read a lot of nonfiction as well, because I'm just very interested in the world. So I want to know lots of things. Maggie Dent's book is beside my bed at the moment. I think it's called Boys to Men. So it's raising the next generation of men. So I'm really in that, and it makes me cry every 3 pages. She's a great writer, so I'm really getting into that. Let me show you some other photos. I'll show you something really funny. When we went to Coober Pedy, we had you have dinner in an underground restaurant. It's an Italian restaurant underground in Coober Pedy, and there's a lot of Coober Pedy is quite multicultural, because lots and lots of miners come from all around the world. And anyway, so after we had lunch underground, we got to have this little tour of some of the underground tunnels, I guess, of the space. And this guy here was, his job was to teach us how to make dynamite. Myrtle and Dos, we were just laughing and laughing. I mean, he was brilliant. He was absolutely great. He'd been there for decades. He obviously knew what he was doing, but he just thought it was, it was really good. And he's teaching us how to make dynamite, and he's explaining how not to do it so that you don't blow yourself up, and all the right ways to do it. And you don't need really expensive dynamite, that you can just, make it. And I won't say on air how you make it, but really specific instructions, and which newspaper to use to roll it up to make the tube. And it was just so fun. It was just one of those really unexpected things that you don't expect, which was great fun on the GAN. These are the breakaways. I don't know if anyone's been to the breakaways. This is sort of outside Cooper Pedy, and these mountains. This apparently was used in one of the Mad Max movies, but this was all underwater at one point, and also freezing, but really breathtaking, really amazing. And they reminded me so much of little camel's humps because we'd seen a few camels out there as well. What else can I talk to you about? We want to talk about jam. I'd never made jam before I started researching the Jam Queens, sorry, and I've been reminded to hold up the book so that people, if you're joining late, I'm Josephine Moon, this is my book, The Jam Queens, and yeah, I needed to research jam because I very much call myself a method writer, so I need to do whatever my characters are doing, and so if they're making jam, I need to know how to make jam. So I taught myself to make jam on the internet, and found some really generous advice from, I Googled literally Jam Queen. I was looking for people who were considered jam queens and really good at what they did. And she was giving away some great advice on how to make jam. And so that worked for me. I made 4 batches and I entered one into the Royal Brisbane Show because that's what my characters did. And to my incredible surprise, it actually won. And I just, my sister, trusty sister, went down to the Ekka and called me and said, how would you know if your jam had won? I said, I don't know. I expect they'll send me a certificate or something. And she said, well, I'm standing in front of your jam right now and it's got a blue ribbon on it. And I just laughed and laughed. Absolutely, I'm not going to, it was absolutely beginner's luck, but I'm not going to say it wasn't really thrilling because it really was. And I kind of got the bug a bit then. I'm actually really into, I think I'm going to become one of those people who enter country shows because it's really thrilling and it's really remarkably nerve-wracking, you know. I entered a cake then after that as well, just into my local show, and I was so nervous. My heart was hammering away and I had to give myself a really good talking to, just going, Jo, it's a cake, like, you know, calm down. But it's a brave thing to make something and put it out there to be judged by the world. So I think there is a lot of life skills in entering competitions and country shows. There's a lot of, obviously the craft, but there's a lot of personal skill there too, I think. What else can I show you? I went, of course, to the Barossa Valley to do research because my jam queens come from the Barossa Valley. And of course, I love Maggie Beer, and a lot of you would have been seeing me gushing about Maggie Beer, and she is all through the book. So I fictionalized a version, or it isn't really a version of her because the character's not really there, but it's a storyline involving Maggie Beer from beginning to end. Unfortunately, I lost about 4 years worth of photos off my computer because, you know, I'm a bit like that. But I found this one. This is me sniffing. It's actually rosemary. It's a big rosemary bush just outside the Barossa Farmers Market. It's a very famous market and it's very cool. So if you do get down there, try and time your trip to go to the Barossa because they do a great breakfast, really cool breakfast. And then we did get to Maggie Beer's place for 3 times in 6 days. And this was my favorite photo, actually. That was me. My son, I think it was 4, maybe just turned 5. And these are just in Maggie Beer's trees outside of her farm shop. She's got a big lake there and some olive trees, and we were just hanging out in the trees because it was fun. But yeah, it's really, oh man, she's got some great food. Really, really good. Oh, Lynette says she lives in the Barossa. Hi, Lynette. Thanks for popping in. Hopefully you'll see some I don't know, recognise some places in there and enjoy those scenes in the Barossa. I do a lot of research. When I went to the Barossa, I walked up and down. I was looking for a place to set my store. So Aggie, my main character, has a store. So I walked Murray Street in Anguston. So there you go, that's 2017. And I have done this in several of my novels. I walk up and down a street and I put in all the shops that already exist there. And this went on, Murray Street's a really long street, so this kind of went on for pages. And I put in like all the streets and, you know, it's the kind of person I am. And then I decided though that my shop, so her shop is called Strawberry Sonnet, so it's a cafe. And I put it in between the Barossa Cheese Company, which has the best cheese, and I have to say currently the best halloumi I think I've ever tasted. And there's an Italian encotta there, Casa Carboni, I think it's called. And so I just thought I just magically Harry Potter up stalls in between other stores. So I've done that in Tasmania for the Chocolate Promise. I've just popped up a chocolate store in between two others, and I did it in the Tea Chest as well on King's Road in London. I just, you know, that one I Google mapped, walked the street over and over again, wrote out the map, and then popped up a store in between. Nuri Utpa is the place to be, Lynette says. Yes, Nuri Utpa is where Maggie Beer's farm shop is, and it's very pretty as well. It's really lovely. And Cynthia says Barossa Market is a favourite. It is. I can see why. It's really got a really great community vibe there as well. It's really fun. I think I'm running out of time. Look, it's so fun to talk to you people, and I think I could probably keep talking for ages. So I'm going to have to say goodbye because I'm getting the wind up to go. It's been so great to have you all here. Thank you so much for everyone who's popped in. I really, really have enjoyed being here. Thank you, Better Reading, for having me. And I hope you enjoy the book. It's out now. It's everywhere. It's in bookstores. It's online. It's an audio. It's everywhere. And I hope you love it. Thank you so much for coming.